Spoilers, my dear. Run if you don't want to be ruined. His story has been too sad so far, but Umbrella Academy Season 4 might actually give Luther a good ending. After that, Reese Witherspoon has given us a sad update. The Witcher Blood Origin will explore the monoliths, and much more. Make sure to stick around to find out what else we've got in store for you. But let's start with the Umbrella Academy Season 4 might actually give Luther a good ending. Luther Hargreeves of the Umbrella Academy, portrayed by Tom Hopper, is arguably the most misunderstood character of the entire series. A series of unfortunate events left him terribly insecure and rather socially awkward. For starters, Luther has a giant physique thanks to his father, Sir Reginald, portrayed by Colm Feore, who injected Luther with an experimental serum in order to save his life, but it left Luther looking like a hairy gorilla man. Then his father decides to send Luther to the moon, supposedly to be on the lookout for any extraterrestrial threats, and being the good son that Luther really is, he regularly sent back reports. But Luther experiences crippling depression and loneliness during his time alone on the moon, which becomes all the more tragic when Luther returns for his father's funeral and realizes that his father never read his reports. And then there's the fact that, despite his father seemingly thinking so unfavorably about his own son that he sent him to the moon, his siblings still give Luther a hard time. So when Luther met Sloane of the Sparrow Academy, it seemed like everything was just falling into place, until his apparent death on the heels of his wedding tore it all apart again. But there is still time in Season 4 for Sloane to come back and give Luther the happy ending that he so obviously deserves. Next, Reese Witherspoon offers a sad update on Big Little Lies. Big Little Lies made its debut in 2017 and features Reese Witherspoon, Zoe Kravitz, Nicole Kidman, Laura Dern, and Shailene Woodley, who together form the Monterey Five. In the first season, revolving around a mysterious murder, we follow the events that ultimately bring the women together, and the second season was about the fallout of those very events. Season 2 also moved beyond the source material, bringing in Meryl Streep to portray Perry's mother, who enters the scene to investigate her son's untimely death and to take custody of Celeste's children. With a cast like this, an engaging soundtrack, and seriously impressive production design, Big Little Lies was nothing less than a success. But coming back for Season 3 is not as easy as it sounds, even if the whole cast would love to return. The director of the first season, Jean-Marc Vallée, passed away from arrhythmia as a result of atherosclerosis in December 2021, and the cast is still mourning their loss. As hard as it is to imagine the series without the person who put so much of himself in the show, but Witherspoon doesn't discount the possibility that maybe one day the Monterey Five will be back, just not quite yet. Following, The Witcher Blood Origin will explore the origins of the monoliths. Netflix's The Witcher is based on the novels by the Polish writer Andrzej Sapkowski, and it made its streaming debut back in 2019 with an 8-episode first season. Since then, The Witcher has been renewed for a third season and given way to an animated spin-off movie, The Witcher: Nightmare of the Wolf. And then, in July of 2020, Netflix gave the green light to another live-action miniseries called The Witcher Blood Origin. The spin-off should be regarded as a prequel entry to the original series and will be set 1,200 years before The Witcher. Blood Origin will reveal how the very first Witcher came to be and what events ultimately led to the conjunction of the spheres. This is the event where different worlds end up crashing into each other, which resulted in the introduction of humans, and monsters came to be in the world of the continent. The miniseries was first teased after the credits of The Witcher's Season 2 finale in December of 2021, and we're hoping that Netflix can make their intended December 25th, 2022 drop happen. In Season 2 of The Witcher, according to the continent's historians, the monoliths are thought to be leftover impact points from the conjunction of the spheres. But when we first came into contact with the monoliths, it was when Ciri's scream toppled one in Sintra in Season 1 of The Witcher. Will Blood Origin shed light on Ciri's true connection with the monoliths as well? Hold up, we do keep our promises here, so why don't you stick around a little longer? Next up, how HBO Max's The Last of Us could fix one of the game's biggest mistakes. Charlie Hunnam teases the return of Sons of Anarchy's Jax, and White Lotus creator already has an idea for Season 3. Let's get to it. First up, how HBO Max's The Last of Us could fix one of the game's biggest missed opportunities. We're all massively impressed with what we've seen so far of HBO Max's take on The Last of Us, and from what the first teaser trailer tells us, they've managed to remain pretty faithful to its source material. Naughty Dog's iconic 2013 video game, The Last of Us follows a smuggler named Joel Miller, who will be portrayed by Pedro Pascal in the HBO Max series, who has to take a young girl named Ellie Williams, portrayed by Bella Ramsey, across the post-apocalyptic United States because she's the key to end the fungal virus that has ravaged ravage the world. The series will have the opportunity to give a little more attention to some of the many memorable characters that Joel and Ellie meet along the way, most notably a man named Bill, portrayed by Nick Offerman. Bill is a lone survivor that has booby-trapped a town named Lincoln to keep out the infected, though it remains a history where Bill came from and where he may be going. The game does imply that he's gay, since they refer to Bill's former partner, Frank, but the game never actually confirms this, which is a shame, especially given how they went all out in terms of positive LGBTQ+ representation in The Last of Us 2. Bill deserves a better story, and with Offerman in the show, it could really be something else, don't you think? Next, Charlie Hunnam teases the return of Sons of Anarchy's Jax. It's been almost a decade since the legendary series Sons of Anarchy came to a tragic end, and suddenly, Charlie Hunnam seems to have gotten the itch to bring back Jax Teller. The FX series was originally created by Kurt Sutter and premiered back in 2008. Sons of Anarchy followed Jax Teller and the members of his biker club, the Sons of Anarchy, as they tried to cope with power struggles from within, rivalries with other gangs from without, and in the meantime, also not get caught by the law, as they went about in their high-risk job of running a gun business. This series was very well received and deserves to stand in a category all on its own. Katie Seagal even won a Golden Globe for her performance as Gemma Teller-Morrow, which is probably why Hunnam is thinking about bringing Jax back. He shared his thoughts on a potential return to the Sons of Anarchy franchise in a recent interview with Access Hollywood, though he admits that the idea is still very much in its infancy. It would be something that I would be incredibly excited about, so we're sort of, like I said, in the infancy of exploring the viability of the idea. Hunnam doesn't seem to be worried about how the original series ended, and maybe we shouldn't be either. After all, the series finale cut to black just before Jax was about to get hit by the truck, and now, White Lotus creator already has an idea for Season 3. Season 2 of White Lotus hasn't even been dropped, and creator Mike White already has an idea lined up for a potential third season for the dark comedy anthology series. The White Lotus was instantly adored for its rich and original take on vacation calamity, giving an interesting portrayal of wealth, marriage, and identity through the eyes of families on a luxurious trip. Isn't it interesting how humans will always find something to stress over? So goes the story of the people in the White Lotus. But if the series were to get a third season, White says they're going to go in a completely new direction. He had originally intended the story for the second season, but as the show ended up moving to Sicily, he didn't think it was fitting. Originally, it was more of like a Bilderberg conference, more about getting into some of the bigger power dynamics there. In case you don't know, the Bilderberg meetings are invite-only geopolitical conferences for aristocrats, representatives of major corporations, and diplomats. If White gets his way, fans of the White Lotus might be in for switching of gears, as the third season may be a little less family-oriented and a little more world-oriented. Do you think the concept would work in the White Lotus? And that's it for now. Do you also think Luther deserves a happy ending? Let us know in the comments what you think. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.